they can watch it in pieces. We don't want everybody to have to watch a full 7-hour day, a 6-hour day, I apologize, 6-hour day. So we're gonna kind of do it in different pieces so that people can watch it at their leisure. So it'll be kind of in like 45-minute segments. We will be utilizing some breakout rooms for our small group discussion for those of you guys who are participating online. So don't feel like you're not gonna be able to participate. We're gonna have a group discussion here in our location in person, but then I'm going to be assigning you guys to breakout rooms when we get to that portion, and people, you can do your discussions there. We have about 7 discussion questions we'd like you to answer, and then we will have you guys recap for us, tell us kind of what you guys discussed in your breakout session, so that, and we're going to record that portion so that people will be able to hear that haven't made it for the whole day. So we're going to get started here in a moment. I'm just going to do a couple introductions. All right, Christa, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, I'll get into the camera here. I'm over on this side of the podium. I'm Christa Glassman. I am from ITEC, who we do the managed hosting for many of the SUNY campuses. I'm the project management officer. I have 3 staff with me. And we're based at Buffalo State College, and we've been with SUNY about 10 years, and I'll be going into a little bit of history of that in the beginning. My background is in MIS. I have my MBA from SUNY Binghamton. Won't tell you how long ago. I've also been teaching project management at Buffalo State in the CIS department for 6 years. Prior to that, I came from the corporate side and was in project management, mostly in logistics, global logistics, fulfillment, financial services, and banking. And I look forward to working with you today on project management. Hopefully this is the first of many of these types of forums to help get people more involved with project management, how it can better your work here at SUNY.
Ray, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, I'm Faria. I am a project manager at SUNY Cortland, and I've been in that position for about 1.5 years. Before that, I was in the help desk area for about 4 years, and then before that, I was a student at SUNY Oneonta, and I worked in their desktop support as a student assistant. And I also graduated from SUNY Oneonta with a bachelor's in photography and international studies, and then I found my way into IT somehow. Happens, yeah. So that's pretty much it for me. I just got my CAP-M certification, so if you're curious about that, then let me know.
Yeah. And my name is Chris Casper-Lynch. I am a program coordinator here at the SUNY Center for Professional Development. I specialize in technical programs and help run a couple different groups that we have going on. The main one, which is one of the sponsors for this, is our Project Management Professionals Community of Practice on Workplace. If you haven't been in there, we're going to be talking about it later. It's a wonderful place to network with other PMs or people who are acting in a PM role, managing projects, asking questions. We post a lot of webinars. We have a monthly webinar that we host, but we also put a lot of free resources up from different vendors. My background is I have a BS in computer science from SUNY Plattsburgh. I won't tell you how long ago I graduated either. For industry experience, I was in software development with Lockheed Martin for about 10 years, and then transitioned to a technical training and sales training manager, specializing in Microsoft products and Sutherland Global Services. And from there, I ended up coming here. So that's kind of how I specialize in that. So you guys in the room want to introduce yourself, and then we'll have everybody else introduce themselves. You just got to give your name, where you work with in SUNY, and why you're interested.
Sure. My name is Beth Moore. I actually work at Upstate, the hospital, and I am a credentialed trainer. I'm currently training the EPIC EMR for non-clinical staff, but project management really interests me. So I took your guys' first fundamentals class.
Oh yeah.
This was just kind of the next step.
Yeah.
I'm Crystal Perlman. I'm the service desk manager at Brockport, and I am working on our implementation of portfolio project management in the Team Dynamics platform. So I'm trying to figure out what our processes or procedures are going to be and how we get those into our tools.
My name's Brendan Price. I work at Open SUNY. I'm a help desk analyst, and I'm interested in learning more about that.
Those of you that are in the meeting, feel free to unmute yourself and introduce yourself. We'd love to hear from you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Tina.
Oh, this is Andrea
Yeah.
with Zura.
Oh, we got Tina and Andrea. Go ahead. Go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, okay. I work at SUNY Fredonia, and I'm the web development manager in marketing and communications. And I am currently project managing our Drupal 8 migration. And I'm also going for my PMP certification.
Oh, great.
Right.
That's awesome. Krista is a great resource for PMP. She's done hers.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Tina, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tina Tomasetti. I'm Assistant Director of Networking and Telecom at SUNY Broome Community College. And I end up having to manage a lot of projects because we don't have any project managers. So I've taken a lot of the classes. I've never taken the test, but I'm just looking for more tools and things to help me keep everybody organized.
Okay. How about Christopher? Christopher, there we go.
Hi, I'm Chris Taverna from SUNY Fredonia as well. I'm a training specialist in technology support services, and I just am very interested in different aspects of project management.
Okay. We've got Bethany. There we go. Here she is. Hi, Bethany. You're on mute. Oh, hold on. You're on mute, Bethany. Hold on 1 second. We'll unmute you. It's at the, there we go. You got it.
Okay. Hi, my name is Bethany Gladkowski, and I work at the University of Buffalo in the IT Customer Service Unit, and that's supporting the central IT organization here at UB. I am a certified PMP, and I have been running infrastructure and IT projects for, oh, I don't know, many years now.
Great. Thank you for coming.
Bethany, we should talk. We're neighbors.
Oh, I just joined, so I must have missed your intro, but yes, I'd love to talk with anybody who's involved in project management.
Great. How about Dwayne?
Good morning.
Morning.
This is Dwayne Thelman. I'm a senior project manager with Information Technology Services at Binghamton University. Have my PMP as well, and I'll be doing a short talk and demo on how we're using ServiceNow for our PPM tool after lunch.
Thank you. All right. Irene?
I'm Irene Haverstock, and I work at SUNY Potsdam. I'm the Computing and Technology Services Department's Operations Manager, and I just thought that this would be a good learning tool for me for project management.
Great. I'd love to have you. We'll give you lots of resources later on.
Hopefully.
John? Yeah? John?
Hi, I'm John. I'm from SUNY Rockland Community College. I'm currently the research specialist. I'm also a project manager for our Guided Pathways initiative, among others.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Kay?
Hi, my name is Kay Watkins. I am the Managing Director of Project Management here at Empire State College. We actually have 2 project managers and 2 business analysts and business modelers. So we're very fortunate here at Empire State College to have that resources, and I'm also PMP certified.
Wonderful. We got lots of experience in this room. This is awesome. How about Maria?
I'm Maria Freitas-Ladisser. I'm also at SUNY Potsdam. I'm an operations assistant in computing and technology services.
and I just wanted to get some background on project management.
Great. We'll definitely give you some. How about Nick?
I'm a desktop services analyst here at SUNY Geneseo. I don't have a lot of formal training other than the fundamentals course that CPD hosts, but really I'm just looking for tools and ideas and ways to better manage the projects we do here.
Great. Great, great. All right. And then I believe I'm saying this correctly, Sumantra?
Hi. My name is Sumantra Sarkar.
Here, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Sumantra Sarkar. I am a faculty for MIS at SUNY Binghamton. I'm a certified PMP2, and I was in the industry for more than 20 years, practicing PMP before I came into full-time academia. So I'm sort of lost touch with the industry, so I want to get back to know what y'all are really facing now and might be make a research project of.
Great. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Terry Page.
Terry added stuff into the chat. Her mic doesn't work.
Oh, okay. So Terry is from SUNY Erie, excuse me. She's a functional lead for Starfish, looking to learn and use some project management tools in their work. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Terry. Tyrone.
Yeah, Tyrone Johnson Newland, SUNY Oswego, Assistant Director for Instructional Support. Been doing some project managing, coordinating for 10 plus years with all our construction up here and outfitting the buildings, and also studying for my PMP.
Great, 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 great. Looks like, I apologize if I say this wrong. Is it Valak or Velake?
Are you talking about Terry Van Vallis?
No, we have a Vela.
Oh, okay.
They don't seem, I think they called in on the phone, maybe? Velake?
Kristen Bella.
Oh, yeah, Kristen Bella, maybe? There we go. Okay, not a problem. She may have stepped away, so we'll come back. Not a problem at all. Just a couple little things, and I'm going to ask you for housekeeping. If you guys can make sure that you found the chat button at the very bottom of your screen, or sometimes it's at the top. The other one is there's also a participants button at the bottom. If you could click on that as well, we're going to use that a little bit when we're asking questions. You'll see underneath the participants, there is a raise hand, a yes, a no, a go slower, a go faster, and a more. Feel free to use those. If we are going too slow, we're going too fast, please feel free to check on those. If we ask a question and we want a yes or no, we'll use those as well. You can raise your hand if you feel the need to. And if you click on the more, there's one more important in there. There's a little coffee cup if you go into the more. That one is really great because if you have to leave to go away for a particular reason, and like to go to the bathroom, or you have somebody in your office that you need to step away, if you could please click on that for us, just so that we know we don't call on you, okay? We want to make sure that we're not disturbing you and we're working with everybody's active. We understand when you're doing stuff remotely, you can't necessarily be 100% focused 100% of the time. So,
looks like we heard from Kristen.
Yeah, Kristen said something. She is working from Upstate. She works in student data systems, wants to learn more about project management as they have lots of upcoming projects and things are changing. So great, thank you for that, Kristen. We really appreciate that. So,
did we miss anyone?
I don't.
On the
Yeah, did we miss
audience?
anybody?
We have a couple people that registered or not.
Yeah, I think you missed me, Terry Van Vallis.
Oh, sorry about that, Terry.
Oh, that's okay, not a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm at Empire State College. Actually, I fall under Kay Watkins, Senior Business Analyst. I just finished project managing one of our CRMs, Recruit. I just completed that project. And so I also started the PMP, but never really finished it, got through the workshop, did a lot of the studying. So hope to get back to that. So looking for the refresher today.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are going to get started first with Christa's presentation. She will be doing some polls in there. They should pop up on your screen. We're also ask some questions that we're going to ask you guys to answer in the chat for us, some open-ended ones, okay? So I will turn it over to Christa. She can share her presentation. At the very bottom, the green share. Presentation.
Mode.
Yeah. You got to share it into the Zoom so we can see it. There you go. You're all set. Can everybody see the presentation okay? You can give us a yes in the participants, or you can throw something in the chat. Let us know if you can't or if you're having any issues, please.
All right, so how are we doing audio-wise? Can you hear me? I'm going to be speaking from a podium as I advance the slides. Yes or no for volume? We're good? Okay. Just use the chat to indicate if voice is dropping down too low or too high.
Yep. If we're getting too low, just let us know.
All right. So the first slide will just go over our agenda that you may have received from Chris and CPD earlier. We're going to be focusing here this morning, first 45 minutes or so, on the areas listed in red. Now, and you'll see also what else we'll be doing later on. We have group discussions, we have food for those of us who are here, and we'll be doing some tool demos after lunch and then doing a wrap up. So our section this morning is on the benefits of using tools, but in full disclosure mode, when this forum was first advertised, we wanted to get a lot of information from the population in SUNY as to what people are using or not using, or what stages they might be in their search for getting a handle on their projects, their operations, and their everyday work. Because we all know in IT and across your campuses, there is just no shortage of projects, no shortage of work to be done. Things change so quickly in our environments that we really do ourselves a disservice if we're not able to corral some of that into some organized and structured work. It's better for us, it's better for our people to be able to do that. So with full disclosure, I'll say that we are going to be talking about this and these topics, but first, I wanted to get a read on what brought you to this event to start with. The tools that you may be thinking about learning this morning would be things like Project or Team Dynamics or Trello, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what those actual tools are later on. But first we wanted to get a read on what brought you to the event to start with. Okay, so there should be a poll.
There's a question in the chat. I said you could answer it for us. What were you looking to learn from this session?
What were you looking to learn? These can be open-ended answers. Go ahead and take that poll. We should be able to display.
Do you want the link so you can get in remotely?
Yeah. Everybody see the place to?
I think we got some answers. We've got, we're getting lots of good stuff. All right, great. So some better project management tools and practices, different types of PM tools and benefits, specific tools that may be available and how I can incorporate them, looking to learn some PM tools and practices, info on what tools other schools are using, useful project management tools and ideas to try, what tools others are using and how, as well as challenges they've overcome, general information, best practices, exploring different management tools that benefit department, and is the amount of time that you use to update data in a tool worth it? Is using the tool worth it, or is it better just to go on? Okay, great.
Good. It's a really good start. And as it is, we will be able to cover most of those areas as we progress our way through the day. So thank you for your feedback. Okay. That said then, be thinking about those challenges and those questions as I walk us through what you see here on the screen as the project management maturity model. Now, for anybody who was at Wizard this week, we did cover this in a very expedited fashion. I will be repeating some of that, but I'm going to get into some detail about each of these levels of project management maturity. And while you're going through this with me, be thinking about what goes on at your respective campuses. Not only within the group you may be reporting up to, but also within groups where you've worked on projects or helped people work on projects to get things done. Okay? Now this maturity model has been around for a while. It's valid now as it was when it first came out in 2008. And Gartner takes this and uses it with their clients and consultants, as do many project management tool companies when they're attempting to figure out at what level of maturity organization might be at before they begin their work to integrate a new tool into the environment. So what you see here is a chart. Time is your axis on the bottom and maturity is your axis on the left. And starting at level 1 is called the ad hoc level. And that is really just about where everybody starts, ad hoc. So what does ad hoc mean? Well, ad hoc means that projects are usually run in a somewhat random manner. There's no set processes involved in running projects. Person number 1 could run a project one way, person number 2 would run the same project a different way. A lot of it is heroics and firefighting. You might have a couple of things you use to keep the group together. You might have emails, you might use team chats, but it is at best a somewhat disorganized process, and it's always frustrating for those who are working on those teams because it's hard to tell where you're going and where you're at and when you're going to be done. Okay, but everybody starts there. Just about everybody starts there in an ad hoc manner. Moving up the scale, level 2 is called abbreviated or repeatable. And what makes that a little different than level 1 is that now there's some more basic processes that might be in place. And those basic processes might track things like your cost, if you track cost. I know we don't at ITEC track cost on a structured level as I'd like to. I'm working towards that. Another thing you might be tracking at this point would be your schedule and whether or not the functionality that your customer asks for is actually being met. Okay, so what that means is you've written down or you've documented, you've got commitment on some basic level requirements and you're tracking your project to meeting those requirements. And many times in the abbreviated state, you may be using some things that worked well from projects that were similar to kind of cookie cutter. You say, hey, that project I'm about to start looks a lot like that one I did last year. I'm going to use the things I learned from that. I'm going to use the schedule. I'm going to use the templates, perhaps, and I'm going to cookie cutter that and try to make this one work with some tweaks. So that's the abbreviated. As you mature forward, level 3 is called organized or more defined. What makes that different from the other two is that now both your management, these are the people who write the checks or sponsor the projects, people who are actually paying for this, those activities and any engineering activities where you're making changes to systems, for example, buying new systems, they're documented and they're standardized, and everybody's using them. Everybody knows where they are, you know where to find them. They're written clearly so that anybody reading it can use it. And if they need to use it for the next project, they go right back to their library and they keep reusing those processes. And that is applicable to not only projects, but also to your ongoing maintenance work. These are things that you do on a regular basis. You know, your backups, your restores, your desktop refreshes, banner patches, library system updates, things like that. Following that, level 4 are more managed processes. And that's just the next level. They're even more managed than the organized. And here's where you're really collecting some data and you're measuring the processes in a more controlled fashion. And at this point, you're now thinking about how was the quality of that upgrade I did? Did I meet my schedule? How do I know I met my schedule? How do I know that the number of hours that somebody said they were going to take to do this was actually the number of hours that were used? So you're measuring what your goals are, your planning activities against your actual activities. And that's something that is more in tune with formal release management for software applications, for example. Okay, so your bigger vendors use, hopefully they're at level 4 or level 5. The larger vendors, when they release patches and release major upgrades to you, they've tested it all completely behind the scenes before you get it. It's a formalized process. So those vendor organizations typically are at level 4, possibly level 5. And then finally, level 5 is where everyone would like to end up, at the optimized level. This is where you can take all of the good work you've done up to this point and apply continuous process improvement to it. You get to be innovative here. Things are working well, they're repeatable, people use the same steps and processes every time, it's second nature to them. Now they can step back and look at it and say, how do we make this better, faster, less expensive? But that requires a lot of overhead, and it requires the ability for you to collect quantitative data. Large-scale Department of Defense programs, the large software vendors like Microsoft, Cisco, and what have you, they use the schedule and the performance data for their releases to help them get better and better over time. Okay, so that is a lofty goal. I myself have never been in an organization at level 5. I can tell you I have been at level 3 and level 4, and we didn't get there overnight, but it is a nice place to be if you're running projects, because things are a lot more predictable that way. Okay. So again, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Think about your current working environments. And I'd like you to take the poll, the next poll, and let's get a read on where we think your respective organizations might fall on this maturity scale. If you think you're like in between 1 and 2, you can probably put yourself at 2 if you'd like, or 1, it's up to you. So take a vote on that, see where we think people are. Get some answers. Yeah. Just a couple more people.
Last call. Anybody else want to answer before we end it? All right.
What do we end up with? Oh, good. All right. Wow. I'm happy. I'm happy with these results.
Terry Page also said they were in between 3 and 4, but mostly 4, which is really awesome.
That's really awesome. Wonderful. Okay, so we have our largest group are in level, looks like level 2. Some at level 1, some at 3. Some are maybe in between 1 and 2, some are between 2 and 3. It's great. Good. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, so that's foundational concept number 1. Advance. Okay. Not advancing. Right.
Click on it with the mouse.
Yep, you did. Try it again. There we go. There we go. So the second foundational area I want to share with you is project management is really change management. So what you're doing is you're impacting change into an organization, whether it be by a new way of doing work, a new system that you're using, a new way of, or a way of giving up old work in favor of other work. Maybe you're shifting some of your work to another department, but project management is really about change management. And this diagram shows the intersection of the 3 areas for change management: technology, process, and people. All 3 are necessary to affect change positively. However, if the way that you're working with technology, process, and people aren't aligned in such a way that you meet that sweet spot in the middle, you may end up with some of these other conditions where alienation would occur if you've got the process and technology part down, but not the people part. The frustration would occur if you've got people in process but no technology. So think ad hoc. This is where there's really no tools at all. You're just trying to get people in process to work in alignment with each other. And then the automated chaos is where you have people and technology but no process at all. So lots and lots of tools, lots and lots of people. The tool's not going to fix your problem unless you've got a process that you're attempting to overcome or work within. Okay. So be thinking about that. With change management and project management, you really need to think about and recognize the existing culture in your respective organizations. How adept is your organization to change? What is the culture like? Are they resistant to change? Are they open to change? Are there certain people who are better at changing or absorbing the change than others? In terms of starting at ITEC, which is now almost 10 years old, I have to say that ITEC, when we arrived, the 3 of us, in April of 2010, we were in a state, or the organization was in a state of automated chaos. They had lots of people and some people and lots and lots of tools, but no process to help them capitalize on those tools. Okay. So when we got to ITEC 10 years ago, the 3 of us, we did our best, as good business analysts do, to get a read or to get a feel for what the organization was really like and how it worked. How did people work together? They work well together. Lots and lots of dialogue, a lot of interviews, conversations, watching people work, desk side mentoring. After all, there were 3 of us, so we divided and conquered, and we went around and sat with the different groups, networking group, database group, operating system group, middleware group, find out what their job was really like. We were also given a mandate by our management that we needed to position our company, ITEC, as the premier cloud provider for SUNY. Okay. We knew that 10 years ago now, cloud, the option for campuses to go to cloud on their own was going to be in front of us very quickly. We wanted to be sure we were positioned to be the best choice for any SUNY campus to use us as the cloud provider, because we wanted to be the most reasonable in cost, the best service, and the most reliable in terms of uptime. In order to do that, we had to get a handle on our processes. So what we learned is when we got there, we were a waterfall shop mostly, and waterfall is the style of project management where things happen in a serial fashion. Most of the projects were medium or large. They were 6 months to a year in duration, and the tool that was chosen was @task. So there were quite a bit of what you would think would be projects in @task that were really just a series of related activities, really not a lot of schedule. So there were 3 of us who joined in April, and combined with the 3 of us had about 35 years of project management experience. We had been in it for a long time, and we all decided that we wanted to work together to bring this organization to the next level. Okay. We were also told by our management that they wanted to have these areas addressed. And they pulled this right out of a textbook. When I say they, I mean our management had gone to conferences, said, oh, this PMO thing, that sounds really cool. Let's go get one.
Here's my credit card.
Here's my credit card. Let's go get ourselves a PMO. All right. And they wanted us to satisfy what the textbook definition of a project management office does. So develop and maintain methodologies, standards, maintain the tools, get some reporting and analysis, the experts, support teams, educate and train, and then develop career paths. So this is a lofty goal. Guess how much time they wanted us to, gave us to do this? Not much more, about a year. You have to do this. This was your scope. This was your challenge. You have a year to do this. Okay.
You bring your cape to the office?
Cape, wizard tool, you name it. We all thought way back then, well, there's 3 of us. We might have a chance to get this done. Well, let me tell you, not so much. But these are all very doable goals and very lofty goals, but very possible, very possible. So as I had said, we divided and conquered. We got to know the organization, how they work. Now remember, this was a help desk. ITEC up till 10 years ago was just the tier 2 and tier 3 help desk for campuses for your back office systems like Banner, DegreeWorks, Lyris, Confluence, the library systems, Blackboard, and I know I've talked to you on the phone with my faculty hat on. Now I know you, Brent. You're very, very helpful. Yes. So we were a tier 2 and tier 3 help desk. There wasn't much organization as far as projects, but we knew with the changes that were coming in SUNY that projects would be the next thing that needed to tackle. So, I put up here level 1.25. This is what we were able to actually finish or set goals for, set good solid goals for with a plan to do in our first year. So after we did all this analysis of what really happens there against what our management wanted us to accomplish, these are the goals that we mutually agreed on were actually possible to do in the first year. We got a handle on project intake. Now, those of you who are at a stage where you're putting your toe in the water, do you want a PMO? Do you want to just get your project managers to recognize terminology and the team members to recognize project terminology? Think about these things as good places that you might want to start. Okay, these are pretty significant in terms of their impact, but not a heavy lift. Put it that way. We started out by doing project intake, and what that means is we had to distinguish all the work that came into IT as either project work, operations work, or support work, whereas before it was just a big blob of stuff. Okay, so we had to make a effort to figure out how can we get people to distinguish those different types of work, because they're handled differently in a workflow. Okay. In addition to that, when you don't have a intake process and a funnel, you've got multiple people working on the same thing at the same time, which is just a waste of time. But if you can get it all in one place and visualize it, you can begin to get a handle on it. You also need to talk about your projects. In order to do that, we established a series of recurring status meetings. You were assigned to a project. Depending on the size of it and how long it was going to last, you established a recurring set of communication to talk about the status of those meetings. That's easy to do. You can do that in a simple Outlook calendar once a week. You have a standard agenda. You have the project team visit. You can do it using Zoom if your people are remote, but just keep talking about status. That's the way you bubble up issues, so the project manager can help address them. Later on, we'll talk about some of the other trainings that CPD and SUNY have available, but there are literally dozens and dozens of already baked project management tools and templates to use out in the wild that can be used to harness or corral some of the requirements, test plans, communication plans to use to run a project. There's lots and lots of them. What we did at ITEC is we selected a set of minimum tools that were necessary to run projects: requirements, testing, and communication. The next thing we did was to get our management to help visualize for the company, for the entire enterprise, what does our 3-year plan look like from a strategic perspective? Because if you are having these long-term large goals, like build a new data center or build 3 new data centers, that's not something that is an overnight thing. You can't just throw that together. It takes long-term planning, and in the SUNY world, lots of procurement and delays with procurement. We never had that visibility until the PMO was asking to know what the 3-year plans and even the 5-year plans are. So it's important to get a seat at the table for that. And if you can't get at the seat at the table, at least at minimum, get the ear of the people who are making those decisions. And then finally, the education piece. It can be formal or informal, but we needed to understand how our project team members would learn how to work with us. They never had project managers there before. We're in an environment where none of these technical people work for us. So we're asking them to do something, and their team leads are also asking them to do other work. How do they prioritize? How do they understand what is most important? How do they communicate with us if they get delayed or if they're having issues? They didn't know the terminology. They didn't know how to report back to us. So we all worked together. We had lunch and learns for about 18 months. We had brown bag sessions. We held our own project status meetings with people coming in so they could get the big picture, just to get ourselves more embedded in everyday life of our work. And now we're up to over 60 people. A lot of them are remote, but the people who are in our office in Buffalo still come to us all the time with that kind of information. Okay, so let's fast forward 10 years. That was what we did goal-wise for our first year. Now 10 years later, I have to say we're probably at level 2, maybe a little bit more. There's more on that later. We finished about 125 projects. We ran the SUNY PM group for 2+ years. The SUNY PM group was a group that had regular webinars to talk about project management topics. It's now being taken over by our workplace group, which Chris is going to talk about more later. We presented at all kinds of conferences, 70 or so, different presentations. We've created our PM processes. We've revised them twice. And we've switched our platform from AdTask to ServiceNow. So now we're on ServiceNow platform. We're doing that time. Okay. The templates that we put together for our process include initiation of projects, planning the different stages. So we have charters, we have requirements documents that we build, testing plans. We have a document for cutting over to production, because as you know, projects are temporary in nature. And once the work is done to produce the product of the project, you want to hand it over. You need to have a group, an operational group who's going to own it, take care of it after you're done working on it. So there's a transition document that we wrote for that. So you're probably saying to yourself, gosh, 10 years and you only got that far? You only moved up one level? Are you a bunch of slackers? Well, actually, in reality, like I said earlier, you have to learn the culture of your organization. And we are at a point now that we are much more open to change, and we're still moving up the scale. Things take a little longer at SUNY than they do otherwise. But I'm now challenged by some of those votes that some of their campuses are ahead of us. So I've got to get going. Right? Okay. So in reality, this is what we were actually able to do. Remember the slide I had first showed you, the textbook version of what a PMO does. This is what ITEC's PMO is actually capable of doing after working within the organization, figuring out the culture, figuring out the strengths and the weaknesses and the limitations and the challenges. This is what our PMO is actually able to do. We figured out how to intake work. We figured out what the organization values in terms of that. We are still a help desk, primarily a tier 1 and tier 2 help desk. So incidents and those kinds of requests for outages always come first. And if you're in the middle of working on a project and you get assigned an incident, your project work gets put aside. So we have to understand that as project managers and make schedule adjustments because of it. We also have figured out tracking and categorization of the work and what thresholds are possible. We've also figured out process owners being things like backups and restores and ownership of Blackboard, ownership of Banner. We've also figured out governance. How often do we need to meet? How often do we need to check back on our steps and our processes?
Krista, we have a question in the chat. Samantra asks, if you had to list top 3 to 5 points of why it took you 10 years to go from 1.25 to 2.0 within ITEC, what would they be?
I think first and foremost would be the fact that our culture was, our management wanted and said they supported a change to project management, but the people were not necessarily on board. They relied on us to get them on board. Whereas in retrospect, I think it needed to come from the top down. Okay, that would be the number one. Anything else would really be related to that. So the pace of change to get agreement that we were not happy with our tool, for example, and then the whole cycle of figuring out what is best for the organization and going out and selecting a new tool takes a period of time. And I'm not really sure what I could say about a third one.
Thank you.
It's really, it boils down to the leadership at the top, thinking what a PMO could do, and then in reality, what it could actually do at an organization. Okay. By the way, most PMO offices last 3 to 4 years. And then they are either abandoned or they're retooled, or they're retooled again. We've retooled now. We are in our, it's going to be starting our probably third retoolment over 10 years, just to be better at what we're trying to do.
And Spencer also asks, how about communication, like defining communication paths and channels?
Defining communication, yeah, that was one of the things we did early on as when we had our business analysts hat on. So we had to see what communication paths existed formally and informally. So the formal chain of command was, you know, you work for this person who works for this person, and you would think that there's a channel of communication there, which there is, but there's also how things really happen. Stuff in the hallway, the chat session, hey, can you work on this? Whereas there's no task for it in a project, or there's no estimate for it, but the person, because they know the person, or they know they owe them a favor, they just start working on that and put your stuff aside. So we had to figure out what it really meant to running projects.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm a little behind here. Let me speed it up. So the point here is you need to figure out what you think your organization can absorb in terms of the change that a project management office or running projects in a more formal fashion really will do to your company. Okay, because some of you are just getting started and some of you are farther along. Okay, so there should be a poll. What can you get, or have you gotten support for within your organization? So we could check all of them that apply. So think back to your journey. Getting some answers? Good.
Give you guys about 30 more seconds or so. All right. Our results.
All right, good. lot of process owners. Good. Good. So we're doing really well with tracking and categorization and assigning process owners for projects when they're finished being projects. Looks like we have some work to do on the strategy side and involving the project manager during the early stages. Okay, good. All right, so our next wrap up will be on implementing project management or change management. The next poll is having to tie back to using a solution. So think through where your stages are for your campuses. What would they expect, or what were the expected outcomes from adding project management to the mix? So this is textbook PMO, high expectations.
You guys about 15 more seconds or so.
Okay. Standardization is big. Transparency and communication is big. And just get a handle on overall delivery and health. But yep, more work. Get buy-in. Get buy-in for project management processes. 3%. But so that's sort of like, well, we'll try this, try to see if project management works. And if it does, we'll roll it out in a bigger scale. Okay. Good. And that pretty much aligns with what most of the larger consulting firms say the expectations are from their engagements with customers who are attempting to start project management offices or get project management going, or figure out what solutions is to oversee delivery to meet goals. They like the dashboards. The answer to that would be a very important thing. The dashboard is more of a communication device about your project health. Is your project in a red state, yellow or green? It helps, the visibility helps to manage any changes in priority that come along. Everybody here is to do more with less on a regular basis, I think. Some other expectations, and this does meet what you guys voted for, what's going on in your organization, is to centralize and prioritize all of the work into this one funnel or this one intake so you can see and have visibility for the purposes of maybe what you're spending in terms of dollars for software and hardware, as well as what you're spending for your people, resource planning. And then finally getting buy-in for project management and then applying these principles for governance before they get underway. And that's where the project management office or project manager can be involved early on in the project so that some set requirements can be established, the proper sponsorship, the proper team members can be determined. And then that project manager acts as the glue to keep that team together throughout the life of the project. There were a number of times, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, where Someone comes to your desk and says, we just bought this, put it in. That happened? Everybody's shaking their head. Here, we got this great fancy thing, put it in. Well, very often, I think we can agree that the long-term life of that product needs to be thought through as far as what it's going to involve to implement it, as well as to keep it healthy and active in used going forward. That's where you want to have your requirements documented ahead of time for ownership and for process owners. All right, so I'm going to wrap up here with a final theme. I think that my main point here is that to try to get involved and make project management successful in your organization, you really need to get yourself inserted into the process earlier on in the pre-project area. So that might mean trying to get in with at the cabinet level, or get your supervisors or management in at the cabinet level if they're not there already, and to insert yourself into the areas or the functional units where a lot of this project spend is taking place. Your organization or your management also, to make project management work, as the question came through earlier from our audience, is the upper management has to recognize that this MO has value. And it has to recognize that the people placed in the project management office have a value that can be delivered to the organization, as long as they're allowed to have that the privilege of working with the people and letting them work with you. Okay, it's really important for both of those to happen for this to be successful. Okay, so we have one more poll question to wrap up. And that is, what is one concept that you can use or carry forward as you work through the remainder of today's sessions?
Threw that one up in the chat if anybody'd like to answer it.
Let's see it.
Communication.
Communication, good. Very good.
Culture.
Yep.
Thinking about what's actually feasible for us to do within the first year.
Being realistic. There's some hard conversations. Try that.
Transparency.
Transparency, good. What else? Change. Any others?
PM really is a change management tool. And then governance.
Okay, good.
Oh, I'm sorry, and planning at all levels.
Planning at all levels, very important. Good.
Right.
All right. Very good. So everyone was paying attention.
Thank you, Krista. We're gonna stop the recording here now and go on to our next topic. We're gonna give you guys a 5-minute break.